Hi everyone, it's Jesse Gillard here from the Postgraduate Research Project. Sorry I can't be in class, so I'm just doing a video presentation for the assessment task. The research project focuses on employee disengagement in local governments within Australia and some potential management responses that could go some way to address some of those issues relating to disengagement. So I'll get straight into it. Firstly, I've looked at some research from the US where the research firm Gallup found a few years back that for every $10,000 of remuneration that a professional employee gets, employee disengagement can cost up to $3,400. Just goes to show how significant disengagement can cost organisations. And similarly, that same research report from Gallup found that 17% of professional services employees in the US can be considered disengaged. So in terms of what we mean by disengaged, research report, I've defined engagement and disengagement as follows. Engaged is taken to mean an employee gives their best effort and productivity each day and are committed to their organisation's goals and values, motivated to contribute to organisational success with an enhanced sense of their own well-being. Now this area, employee disengagement, is something I've been really interested in through my public service career in the federal government and the territory government, and just recently in local government. The idea that people can just punch in and punch out without really being engaged or really taking their work seriously is really interesting. And that fundamental question, how can you get the most out of people? It's really interesting when you think about some of the research we've looked at over the past few years and some of our organisational behaviour subjects, particularly like Vroom's expectancy theory, Hertzberg's two-factor theory, and so on. Looking at ways that we can encourage employees to be the best that they can be, and looking at the levers that we can pull as managers to get the best out of staff. And sometimes there's no easy answers there, but having those frameworks as set out by Hertzberg and Vroom, that's really goes a long way to understanding how we can get the best out of our staff. Now, in a local government setting, there's a lot of context which explains why I chose to look at local government and employee disengagement or engagement within local government. Statistically, local government has an overrepresentation of people aged 50 or above, and also because local governments exist in smaller labour markets relative to capital cities, for example, say Canberra, often people stay in their roles a lot longer. For example, compared to other professional roles, people in local government are statistically much more likely to be in their role for 10 years or more, which is quite interesting when we think about the Canberra labour market, where there's generally a high proportion of churn between public service officers or indeed in professional roles. So within that local government setting, we've got a lot of people that have been in their role for a long time. So those questions and the psychology around human resource, around organisational behaviour, as set out by Vroom and Hertzberg, those sort of really interesting academic questions around getting the best out of staff are really interesting, because if someone's been in their role 15 to 20 years, is there proof that they are going to be harder working than someone who's been in the job for just a few months, for example? Now, I want to talk about some past research into this topic, and the short answer is there isn't a lot. And Oliver Surratt in 2017 looked at employer surveys and looking at ways that employee empowerment can aid engagement. There was a Struenwasser in 2015 who looked at the importance of staff consultation to promoting employee engagement. That was with teachers and looking at ways head teachers and principals can consult staff to build engagement. And also a P. Frost in 2016 looked at the linkages between staff engagement and organisational performance in a nursing context. But there definitely hasn't been a lot focused on within white-collar environments, and there definitely hasn't been anything that I could find looking at employee engagement from a longevity perspective. So in terms of my methodology, I decided to go with a quantitative SurveyMonkey survey. It was a 10-question survey which had some multiple choice questions, some open-ended questions and some ranking questions. And I found the results quite the response rate quite good. I sent the survey to 30 local government middle managers who I knew through either LinkedIn, through conferences I attended, and colleagues of colleagues and that sort of thing. I ensured that the results were completely anonymous, and I went at great lengths to ensure I wasn't just sending the survey to colleagues, because I wanted to protect everyone's privacy and that sort of thing. Naturally, I made sure there was a clarifying question at the start to ensure I was capturing the right market, and that just queried that, just asked people whether they were a supervisor and whether they did supervise an employee that had worked for their organisation for 10 or more years. Of the 10-question survey, some key results flowed that were consistent across the responses had flown through. And they include the majority of respondents strongly agreed that employees became less engaged over time, that complacency, moving on long-term employees, and managing expectations, they're seen as key management challenges for those managers that have staff with 10 or more years experience. Now, also, I've had a few questions around management responses to that. And critically, management strategies vary among the managers that I had surveyed for this research. Long-term employees would welcome more feedback. According to the managers I surveyed, they would appreciate more autonomy and they would appreciate more career leadership opportunities. But there's no easy answers there, because you're talking about a cohort of people, like I said, that often work in small organisations in small labour markets, so there wouldn't always be the promotion opportunities that you'd have in large organisations in capital cities. So there's some really interesting findings that I think could feed into some more research. Future research in this area might be a potential PhD topic for me. Could evolve two ways, really. One, looking at the psychology around individual employees' motivation, but then it could also morph into organisational responses to employee disengagement. So that's what can HR and organisational development areas in local government, indeed all organisations, what can they do to enhance employee engagement or ward off, so to speak, employee disengagement within their organisations. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Sorry I couldn't be in sunny and warm Canberra, but I hope this provides a broad overview of my research. Thank you.